Hey everybody, Pastor Doug here, and I'm with my ministry partner, Pastor Tall Doug. I don't quite get that. Why is it when we're sitting downwards, maybe my legs are a lot shorter than yours?
Maybe that's
could
it.
be possible.
They're posture too.
They're definitely shorter than yours. I know that. We're really glad that you're joining us today for our midweek Bible study. And this past week, my message was about faithfulness. And I want to tell you, and I didn't even tell him this, I wanted to start out our time here today talking about faithful people. And there's a lot of faithful people in my life that have really meant a lot to me, namely my wife, Robin. She's just a perfect wife and perfect person. She's as pretty inside as she is outside. She's a great lady, and she's faithful. But, when I was thinking about this session here today, obviously it's Tall Doug and I doing this together. And one of the most faithful people I have found in my life is this man sitting right here next to me. I think it's a great, and I didn't tell him I was going to do this. He just said, "What are we going to say?" I said, "We're going to get going. We'll start. We'll be okay." But when I think about faithfulness and what that means, it's a decision to be a faithful person. We're making a decision for a lifestyle, and this series is geared around having the fruits of the Spirit show up in our lives. When you talk about fruits grow. They grow on trees, they grow on vines, whatever their source is, they grow. And we should be doing that as well. And the Bible teaches us to grow to be like Christ, to show those fruits, those attributes that Christ has. He was faithful, he was dedicated, he was patient, he was kind. And so all of these things that we're talking about in this series are dealing with those kinds of fruits. And faithfulness is a big deal. And so, Doug, I'm going to ask you a question. What is it about you that makes you want to be a faithful person? What's expected? Is it how you were raised, how you were taught, or is it just how you are as a person?
It's one of those questions I never thought about. You get asked a question,
and it would have been nice to have a few moments to think about it first.
Not like being on the spot. No, but like a job interview question when I ask you, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Until you think through those things, you don't really have an answer. But I guess that's part of it, probably most of it. The way I was raised, I give most of the credit, maybe all the credit, to my mom.
Yeah.
And that's just who she was and is, and we kind of take after her, I guess. So, thanks, Mom.
What a nice attribute to have, to be faithful. Because you know what, I think what's noticed most is when we're not faithful, when we can't be counted on. Those folks that say stuff and then don't follow through, or commit to things and then aren't there to actually do it. We notice that way more maybe than we do those who are faithful, who show up all the time, who are there to do what they're supposed to do. I love it. It's been a stickler of mine my whole life to be on time. There's nothing. We're going to a high school football game, for example, and Robin's there, and she's not in any hurry to get to. I can't stand to miss the kickoff. I want to see the kickoff. I want to see the coin toss. I want to see all of that because to me, I want to be on time. So everything I do, I gauge that. I got to leave at this point to get there on time, and I got to park, and then I got to walk in, and I don't want to have to rush. I don't want to find my seat. So that's just kind of who I am. And so I recognize people who are like that. And somebody who's like that, in my mind, they jump straight up the ladder in my mind because I appreciate somebody that's faithful. And I think part of what God is teaching us is he wants us to be faithful. He even says it in his word.
Yes, there are two scriptures in particular, both from Proverbs 20, verse 25. It is a trap for a man to dedicate something rashly and only later to consider his vows. And then in chapter 20, verse 6, everyone talks about how loyal and faithful he is, but just try to find someone who really is.
Do you know people in your lives that are faithful? Do you know people in your life that are not faithful? How's that gone for you? I just love it so much, and I'm not totally sure how Doug feels about me, but I know how I feel about him. And he's just faithful. He's loyal. He's kind. He's gentle. All of these things that we've been talking about. And I think that's why I love him so much, because he's just a good guy. And he attributes it to his mom. But a lot of it, as he'll tell you, is faith, and is how God has worked within his life, within your life? How has God programmed you to be this way, the way you are to other people?
Sure. Those characteristics, those traits you talk about, the fruits of the Spirit, patience being one of them. I was driving back from Allentown early this morning, and a big tractor truck cut me off. And in the past, I would get really upset and try to race back around and cut him off and catch back up onto the schedule I'm on. But now I've hopefully matured at least a little bit, and I think of things differently. And I think, okay, God, is there something up there you're preventing me from getting into some kind of trouble? So I just, go with it and go with the flow in cases like that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as being faithful, I can only attribute, like you mentioned, to my mom, but also God and the Holy Spirit working in me. There are things that now are priorities to me that weren't when I was younger. Coming to church, being here on time, doing things like this staff meeting and getting set up for Sunday morning. Those are priorities, so you get up and you go do it.
And so I think faithfulness is a decision that we have made to live our lives a certain way. I've decided I'm going to do that. I've decided I'm going to do this. And you know what? I want to be clear, because I don't want you to get disappointed. Oh my goodness, I struggle with that. How many of you, Doug, have you taken a survey on the computer lately? Have you ever done that? A survey?
Not recently. I did in the past, but not recently.
Okay.
I can ignore them now.
So you know how they do that. They ask you a question, and then they say, rate this 1 to 10.
Right.
Would you have given the telephone service that you got from our representative, very good, weak, 0, very good to a 10? Where would you rank that? And so, it's kind of hard to get 10s,
right.
But judge yourself what God might be saying about your patience, about your kindness, about your gentleness. We're not going to get 10s, but we may get a lot of 9s. And how about this? Do you think, Doug, in your life, there are some times when you're on your A game in your Christian walk? I'm on my A game, I'm on the ball, but then some pressures come in, kind of changes that a little bit. So maybe my score is not a 9 this week, it's a 6 or a 7 in certain categories. Is that possible?
Sure. I think more than possible. I think it's typical because, as we've said many times, it's easy to be a Christian when things are going well.
Right.
It's when life is difficult and you get things thrown at you, and this issue and that issue you can handle, but all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with 3 or 4 or 5 things coming from every direction, and it's very difficult because, again, being men, we're problem solvers. So, okay, well, I'm trying to solve this problem. Well, this one popped up. I got this one, and okay, what's most important? Before you know it, you're overwhelmed, and maybe you're not handling things the way you wish you were.
Exactly. The pressures of life are going to change how you are that day. But this is what I love about Christianity. Nothing is going to take away my salvation, the gift that God has given me. But then what I'm controlling and what I'm involved in is how I live that life. What kind of representation am I making of God in my life for the people that are around me? Now, we play golf together, okay? And so does it matter if I hit a bad shot? And we have some guys that play with us that might throw a club and then the curse words are flying and they're going all over the place. Would that matter if I did that and you saw me do that? Would that matter in your judgment of me or your understanding of me?
Absolutely.
Sure, it would matter. And hey, I'm just as disgusted as anybody when I hit a bad shot, but I'm choosing how I'm going to react to that. I'm making that decision ahead of time that this is how I choose to live. And it's frustrating. You get disgusted. I think I'm doing everything. I know we talked before, and we make a bad swing. It feels just like a good swing. We have no idea what's happening to the club head. And so getting mad about it doesn't really accomplish anything. And I also think that getting mad is a just choice that person has already made. I'm going to do this, and this is what because this one guy, he's throwing. I played with him yesterday, and he threw the club 3 times. He cursed quite a bit, for bad shots. And the one time he threw his club, and the ball still made it on the green. And I'm thinking, and then where's the justice here? I'm playing against him, so he hits a shot. The ball still goes on the green on a par 3. He throws his club, and he's screaming and crying around, gets up there, and then he makes a long putt for birdie. And I'm thinking, Lord, where's the justice there? But hey, it's just a game. But my point is we are making decisions ahead of time on how we're going to live our lives, how we're going to treat the people around us, whether we're going to be honest or not, whether we're going to be kind or not, whether we're going to be gentle or not. And it really matters. I can tell you this, I enjoy being around this man. I enjoy playing golf with him and working around the church with him and the decisions and choices we make. He's consistent, he's kind, he's gentle. He may be a little bit taller than me, but he is a lot of fun to be around. And Doug, I think you've made choices for that in your life.
I think so. You mentioned some of the people who make bad choices. You get upset, you get mad. Those become habits. For this gent that we're playing golf with, I know who you're talking about. It is so ingrained in him. It's kind of who he is. When this happens, he's going to do that. And the same is true with kindness. If that becomes a habit, that's your go-to. Like, oh man, that was unfortunate, but oh well, I'm going to be kind to people. It's habit forming. Just practice. Start that way.
What do I do when I make a long birdie putt? What do I do?
There's a little giggle, and then there's a smile. And then sometimes there's a strut. A little strut coming off the green.
I like it. I just enjoy it, and I enjoy the blessings of God. I want to tell you, God offers his favor to you. And if you want to be faithful, if you want to be kind, if you want to be gentle, you need to tell God about, God, I want to be that person. I want to be who you created me to be. But understand, you're never going to be perfect. You're going to have your down times. You're going to have your moments where you're maybe not quite up to par, but you can make up for it a lot of times. You can apologize when you need to. And I think that's part of being a strong, healthy Christian, is sometimes when you say, hey, I wasn't quite on my game today, and I'm sorry about that, and I hope I didn't offend you by what I did or what I said. I think that's all part of being who God created us to be. But listen, these goals, these things, these fruits of the Spirit are all obtainable for you. God has laid them out. He doesn't say, well, look, you can have 3 or 4, but you can't have the rest of them. That's only for these folks. No, all of it is available to you and all of it available to me.
Exactly. And it's a fine point, but the Bible calls it the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. It's not the fruits plural. Like you said, you can't take this one. I'll get some of that one today. I'll let that one go. You get them all. It's sort of all or nothing.
I love it. And so think about this in your mind. Right now, as a believer, every one of us has the fruit that God has designed in our life. It's all growing. Some of them, I think, are more natural to you based on your personality or your upbringing or your family background. But all of them are obtainable. And all of them, God wants you to have. It's not that he says, well, look, you can be all of these things, but no patience for you. No, patience is one of the things that God challenges me with. And it is a challenge for me. I don't have a big problem being kind. I like to be kind. I like to be fun. I like to be faithful. I think you can count on me. Patience is a challenge for me. Being patient with lots of things. Patient with other people. Patient with the growth of the church. Patient with there's lots of things. Patient sitting at a red light. Patience going down the highway. And what I have learned is where I need to work is how God challenges me with situations. So remember that. Make sure that you remember that God will challenge you. If you're impatient, put you in situations where you need lots of patience. God's working for you. God's pulling for you. So am I. We love you. We really enjoy coming into your homes each week. And I pray God's blessing on you and really hope to see you on Sunday. God bless you and have a great week. Thank you, Doug.
Yes, sir.